Okay, aloha and bulavanaka, everyone. Welcome to another week of the weekly podcast with the Student Psychology Student Association. We have a guest today, Dr. Reid, Dr. Rowena Reid. Dr. Rowena Reid, who teaches general psychology, organizational behavior, and educational and instructional psychology.
Aloha.
Just before we start, is it okay, Dr. Reid, if you introduce yourself for everyone?
Sure. I've been here a little too long already. Been here for 25 years. Can you imagine that? Anyway, I was hired as a director of alumni relations. And at that time, it was President Shumway. And so then I decided to work on my doctorate with University of Southern California. And right after that, I got into teaching through the CLT. But I have been teaching just as long in the Samoan language classes. So I've been here way too long.
Well, we're excited to have you, Dr. Reid. Um, just my first question for you is, how did you kind of get to where you are today? I know you just talked about how you were hired and how you got to teaching psychology, but in your undergrad years, how did you decide on a major and how did you end up teaching psych now?
Yeah. Well, when I was an undergraduate here from BYU Hawaii, we were actually the first social work graduates. At the time, the program was still new. I love working with people, and I thought I was going to work in the Indian reservation, but then I decided to go on my mission and learn more about my culture. My dad, when we were growing up, my father used to say, speak English, speak English, speak English. But as we started to grow up and leave, and he sent me to Hawaii and back, to California and back. When we got home, he would say, speak Samoan, speak Samoan, speak Samoan. And I thought, oh my gosh, if my dad knew I was teaching Samoan, he'd be like, see, I told you to learn your language. So going on a mission for me was like an extended practicum. And shortly after that, because I really got to know the Samoan language, even though I am Samoan, but having grown up away from Samoa, I was exposed to American Western culture and then to go back to the islands. And so that was a big thrill for me. And right after my mission, I became a high school counselor. I taught high school, taught history, and then became a counselor, which is something I really wanted to do. And at that time, there was no master's program for counselors. So a few of us, all of us counselors, were sent to Oregon State University to complete our master's in counseling. And that's where the educational psychology came in. My interest in psychology, I've always been interested in psychology. I worked in the prison, and again, it's a different field of psychology. So I always tell students, hey, if you're not sure what you want to major in, go with your gut feeling and see what it is that you're kind of thinking of. Because psychology, you can do almost anything, even in the industry. And that's why I love organizational behavior too, because prior to my coming back to BYU Hawaii as alumni relations director, I worked for Starkist. I went home, worked in the prison, then I worked for Starkist, which was the second largest tuna cannery in the US. And you learn to work with employees there, and you just use your psychology and mental thinking and my knowledge from my mission. Everything just kind of fell together. And people were shocked that I was leaving the company because they thought it was a job that I always aspired to. because you got free housing, you got free education in a private school for my kids. We had an annual vacation. It was wonderful. But my husband wanted to come back to college, and that's why we came back so he could finish his schooling. And then ultimately, unfortunately, he passed away way too soon. I mean, I said, you better walk on your graduation. He goes, no, I don't think I'm going to walk. I said, no, no, no. We left all our taros and all our banana trees back home so we could come and finish your degree. And so anyway, so he did walk, but shortly after that, he passed away. But I am so thankful for the opportunity that I went on to grad school, um, which is something if you really, really want to get into the psychology field, whether it's teaching or whatnot, then it is a master's program. It is a doctorate program for psychology majors. I'm so excited. I have a couple of students who are in grad school right now. Some will finish, and I'm like, yes. So go for it. Don't limit yourself. Um, and even with my master's in psychology, I was still able to do high school counseling. I mean, some people are interested in that arena. You like you could work in the prison if you wanted to, but there is so much opportunities. Um, even if you work for a company, you still got to work with people. So you need that knowledge of what makes people think the way they do, how they act. So anyway, that's been my life story summed up into a few words there. Maybe I answered longer than you expected, but anyway.
No, that was great. Thank you so much.
It's good. So while I was talking to Jane, Dr. Reid, she mentioned that organizational behavior, your class that you teach, is kind of different from like most of the psychology classes. So how do you feel when teaching general psychology in comparison to organizational? Because somehow organizational deals more with the business and how
Yes.
people should react to like the behavior of people in the business. Like what are your feelings on like those two different aspects on psychology?
Well, it's funny because organizational behavior, we have most business majors, and this class is required as part of their minor. And in the class that Jane is in, the online class, there's like 49 students. That's a lot of students, even if it's online. You still got to correct and look and manage that group. But I love that class, and I give them an opportunity to teach because, when I was a personnel manager, HR for Starkist Company, that's what I did. I you do employee training and development, and so you have to speak and you have to present, and there's a lot of writing in this field. Even if you're doing an online class, and you still got to talk and you still got to write. And so I required that for that class. And the thing that I enjoy most about organizational behavior is that it reaches beyond the psychology field. And if you're going to go into the industry, you still got that psychology knowledge that will help you with HR, with employee development, with even writing. I was in charge of uh, the monthly newsletter for the company. And so you do a lot of things there. It is steering towards the organizations and companies. And then you laugh because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is the same thing that you would, apply to your everyday life. So unlike general psychology, which is just a glimpse of what psychology covers, we're already looking at the spring term, and we're thinking, okay, what can we offer, or what courses can. I would love to teach a women in psychology course, because men are from Mars and women are from Venus. Yes, women play a really important part in psychology because they weren't recognized in the beginning. It was a man's field, but now there are a lot of women in psychology because just the nature of you're a lot more caring, you're into the relationship. But that's not to say men aren't either. There are a lot of men who are equally um, into relationships and stuff like that. So I don't know if that answers it, but it's sort of like organizational behavior is sort of stuck out there in between business, and it opens your eyes to a new area of psychology.
No, that really helps with everybody listening as well. So, like, just to follow up on that question, I just wanted our listeners to know that Dr. Reid is the only female teacher here with teaching psychology. We hope to have more in the future. Maybe
Yes.
Jane is gonna come back and teach as well. Let's just hope
Yes.
for more females in the field as well for psychology.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that that was probably one of the main reasons I was hired, is because I'm of color and a woman, which I am so grateful. It breaks that that feeling that it's just a man's job. But no, uh, in fact, we're looking to hire a few. There is an opening, and we hope the decision comes up soon. But um, yeah, I hope that we will look at women in the future. In fact, the adjunct faculty also, there are more women that have opened themselves to teaching. So that's good. That's a good point, see.
I want to ask also like a follow up question on that follow up question. I think you're kind of a pioneer, Dr. Reid, because you are a woman. You're from a country that doesn't have a lot of research in the field of psychology done in it. So, how do you feel as a woman from Samoa coming in and teaching people from all around the world? What are, I guess, kind of your main takeaways that you want your students to take with them to continue to be pioneers just like you in this field?
Yeah. Well, when before I came to college, I really, really, besides my dad wanting me to be a civil engineer, I almost got into psychiatry at the University of Hawaii. But last minute, my father said, "Okay, no, that's too wild. You go to Laie." At that time was Church College of Hawaii, and so I've always had it in me, a nurturing feeling. And whenever, like, I took a group of students the last time they had this, what I forgot what the took a group of students to Samoa to see what was available. I forgot what we call that program, Upward Bound or something, Close Up or whatever. But I personally made sure that we went to the hospital, and there is such a need for basic counseling, basic psychiatry, basic people relations. It's different from human relations, it's different from HR, but just people that are a lot more skilled. And so I was so happy to see that they have a couple of social workers who are starting the field. Still, there is not enough people there. And unfortunately, when they graduate with a BA and they go back home, they're not really totally qualified to say, I'm a psychologist. But it opens up the field for them to go and get started on something. And then hopefully the government there will send them to a psychology program, or even psychiatry, which is you need to get your doctor degree, I mean medical doctor degree. So even though I am a woman here, I really, really I know I'm preaching to the choir because you folks understand this, but a lot of students need to understand that when you come to BYU Hawaii, you're going to be mixed with a lot of students from all over the world, and not feel intimidated that the US students are going to benefit from this program. I think I bring another light and another opening to the rest of the world. It's not just meant to be for the US. It's meant to be for the whole world. So hopefully we can do a study to see how our graduates are doing back home, what it is they're doing, and not forget about psychology. I'm not sure if there's a program in Fiji, but people do study psychology, but a particular field, but other than working in the schools and helping with counseling, more into the medical field and looking that way, or in the prisons and working with the inmates. I had so much fun working in the prison because I set up a work study program there. And I even brought in the local community college to hold classes. And so all those things you can cover. Um, Gee, did that answer your question or did I go way beyond what?
Oh, that was good. Thank you so much.
So I just wanted to go back to what you've mentioned, because you've mentioned that you've worked in the prison twice. So I feel like that right there is like an emphasis on like what you love so far. So I just wondered if you could just elaborate more on like what you did in the prison, how you felt, and how you think that your impact on them was was that great.
Yeah, no. When I first went back, it was they hired me to come and what do you call set up the rehab counseling area in the prison. And so, fortunately, there was another BYU Hawaii grad that was hired before me. So when I went, I asked, "Hey, so how's the job?" And he goes, "Yeah, same old, same old." And I thought, "What?" But when I walked into the prison, the first thing I asked the warden is, "Can you give me a room specifically for me to talk with the inmates?" So he assigned an inmate to work with me and to clean the room, paint it, put the flowers. I made it really, really nice. Then I was ready to talk to the inmates. And when they called them in, there was just one inmate. I was not ready. You know how they say you love the person, you don't like what they did, but in the church and in your profession. And when I was finally, I said, okay, take a breather. And I asked the guards to bring him in. He walked in and it was the same guy that was helping me clean the room. He just had a different nickname. The guys called him this one name, but he had a machete. He would come in and dig the gum out of the glass, the desk and help me paint. I was like, oh my gosh. Taught me a lesson. Never prejudge anybody. And so that was a really good lesson for me. And I learned so much from being there. I mean, because it's a different kind of a prison, and you will work in different kind of settings. And I remember the guys from Australia visiting and saying, "Wow, Rowena, you've got ocean view, you've got mountain view, you've got beautiful settings. This is not a prison." I go, "No, it's a rehabilitation center." And so, like I said earlier, I brought the college people in. We had programs where they learned to grow their own vegetables to supplement their diet. Yeah, it was very interesting. So you can take a job and make something of it. And so that was my exciting part of my career was I felt like I made something out of what was there.
So just thank you for that, Dr. Reed. I just wanted to have a follow-up question on that. I just wanted us not so much a question, but like a comment. Because I remember in one of our psychology classes with Dr. Orr, a mental health class, he had
Mhm.
asked this same question. If a person that murdered someone, or if a person that went against your beliefs came in for counseling or came in for help, what would you do? I feel like me and Jane were in that class as well. And people, they as members of the church, even as your own individual, you have your own principles that you stand by. But as future psychologists and psychiatrists, we need to be aware of those biases and overcome them in a way to help the person, because we should always have that outward mindset and
Ah,
help the person instead of relying on your own perspectives as future
yes.
psychologists and psychiatrists.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about people. I mean, you want to know what his sentence was? He was in for murder, and he actually he raped a woman, murdered her, and I just was not the gory details of the case was like, oh my gosh, I hated it. I had really struggled with it. But I wanted to laugh when I found out that this same person that I hated was the one that was helping me all along. And then, so that was one. And another case was a guy was in for murder too, and his wife had been coming in. I set up my office so that I could talk to the families as well as to the inmates. So one day the inmate came in and he was kind of crying. I thought, wow, and he's so tough, in the prison. I said, what's wrong? And he said, oh, Rowena, I think my wife is fooling around on me. And I said, well, what did you expect? Did you expect her to? I mean, that was I'm always, my first years of counseling, if the client cried, I cried. If they were happy, I was happy. You just kind of, so I would come home and my husband would say, I think you better look for another profession. And I said, why? He goes, I hate to see you so depressed. You're so depressed. And I thought, okay, I better turn so it was a lot of mind thinking. I mean, so I was never bold like that. I was always shy and quiet and nice. But incidences happen in your career and in your life, which makes you jump the broom. It teaches you, I mean, and that did it for me. So I said to him, well, what did you expect? Did you expect her to be loyal to you? When you did this, you're in prison, she's out there. I hope she finds somebody else. I just boldly said that to him, and he was like, what? So I told the guard one day when she came to visit him, she had a little boy. And so he did some naughty things. He was thrown in a confinement. So I told the guards to turn around. He goes, what? Oh, turn around, turn around. So they turned around. I told the boy, run to your dad. And the was a heartbreak for me when I saw him when it was time to go. Like I yelled over, time visiting time is over. And when I saw him, the hands parting this way and just the tip of the thing, and he broke down. I mean, he was like, if he could be sorry and be forgiven that day, that would have done it. But so many experiences like that has maybe have taken me to take a different perspective on how you can help people. Yeah, and it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. You have to be ready for it when it comes.
I think you touched on something important there, talking to your husband and him telling you to find another job. I think that's important for just like all of us psychology students to realize that there are going to be shifts in our career. Like we may start one way in our career, but that doesn't always mean that's how we're going to be for the rest of our career. So, what, how are you like humble enough and open enough to accept those shifts in your career when you realized you needed to change something about the way you were working?
Mm. Well, no, that's a really good point. When my husband used to come, he used to drive me into to the facilities because I asked him to help me carry some planks and things to make the office look nice. Oh my gosh, he was like, don't ever wear dress. Always wear pants when you come to the prison. I go, what? And so anyway, he was complaining. He was worried. He was, did you see the way that guy looked at you? Did you see the way those people were? And I said, okay, from now on, you just drop me off at the gate and then you go and I will have some inmates come and bring my stuff in. So and he knows. My husband knew that I loved this kind of job and it was in my DNA, you know. But of course, him being an outsider, he didn't see that. So I will have to say that all the jobs that I have taken allowed me to, like I said, you have to make the job your own. And I didn't necessarily shift, like went out of the field, you know, for good, but I adapted and I adjusted my current working environment to, even when I came here and I worked in alumni relations, it is a relationship job. Because of that, we were able to set up 72 alumni chapters around the world. That was so solid. I mean, it was so fun. So I could have come and sat in the office and, you know, shuffle some papers and do some, but I told myself and our staff, we are going to make this happen. And so we reached out and we worked hard. It's not easy, but so psychology field is not an easy field. It's not easy, but it's not hard either. It just depends on how much you want to make it work.
Thank you for that, Dr. Reid. Just to make a comment as well, I know one of as future psychologists and psychiatrists, one of the things we have to develop is empathy, and you touched a little bit on that because you said when you saw them cried, you cried. When you saw them laughed, you laughed. Like, because for me personally, I struggle also with empathy,
Yeah.
and as trying to develop this into the field of psychology, how have you like developed it or mastered the idea of empathy or the concept of empathy?
Well, I think when I was working in the high schools here, I was a counselor at Kahuku High School, and I did deal with, and I also worked with Catholic Social Service, dealt a lot with what you call suicidal cases. And that's when all the crying came out. And I honestly asked myself, oh my gosh, if I have to do this every single day, I'm going to be crying every single day. So when these girls reached out to me and I told them, catch the bus, come to PCC. When you get off the bus, I'll be there waiting for you. And so my husband, I didn't tell my husband because I knew he was going to be worried, but he said, where are you going? I go, no, I have to meet somebody. So I went there and I met them and I talked with them and I said, get a grip. You know, you just self-talk, self-talk. And I told myself, hey, if you want to help somebody, you better get a grip of yourself first. So you have to ask yourself, is this doing my client any good if I'm going to fall apart? So you have to be firm. Oh yeah, after I talked with them and I am by myself and then I'm going, oh my gosh, that was so draining. So you have to do a lot of self-talking, and being Polynesian, and that's not excluding you, Jana, but it's in our nature to be nice. When I worked on my master's degree, I remember my professor said, Rowena, because he videotaped us at that time, it was films, and he said, do you notice something different about you? And I said, no. He goes, you're always smiling. You're always you're talking about something serious, but you're smiling. I go, yeah. He says, you need to cut that. I mean, because you're talking about something serious, you need to put on your serious face. So and then when I got my doctorate, you just felt so empowered. You as you get your credentials, as you get exposed and you get experience, all of a sudden you feel, okay, I can do this, and you feel empowered. And then so working in that prison, that taught me a lot. That forced me, because the way I set up my office matters. When I'm counseling, I have somebody sit on the side here. I never have anybody sit across from me, but the prison taught me they got to sit across the table from me because it's a different setting. And when we did that, it made it very clear, I'm here, you're there. You're the territorial in the space. So it comes with learning. It comes with, it's not going to come overnight, but you'll be able to do it. You can do it. This is all part of your growth and learning. Did that answer the question?
Yes, that did. That
Yeah,
did.
okay.
Thank you.
What would you say to psychology students, or really, I guess, any student? I know this is the Psychology Student Association, but any student in any major, what would you, I guess, give them as a tip to work on their learning and progression throughout life and to be okay with the twists and turns that life throws at you?
Yeah, I look at the undergraduate years as years of exploring. And so I say, hey, don't be stuck on this. Maybe psychology is not the right major for you, but whatever it is, go for it. Like I said, I grew up, my father told us what we needed to do. When I came here, he told me what to major in. And I had no idea what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to the army. I wanted to join the military long time ago. And if I had, I probably would have been one of the first women officers in the military. But he said, no, any girl who goes to the military is looking for a husband. I thought, what? So, like I said, your parents can have an influence, your friends can have an influence, but at the end of the day, it's going to be you. You're the one that's going to look in the mirror and say, I'm going to do this because I really, really want to, or I'm going to do this because my parents told me. When I was academic advisor, there was a Japanese student who came in my office. He walked in, closed the door, and I thought, oh my gosh, something's wrong. I said, what's wrong? And he said, Sister Reid, I hate my major. But he was graduating that it was 2 more weeks before graduation. And I said, oh my gosh. And he wasn't even my major to be an academic advisor for. I said, why did you wait so long? And he said, because my parents sat us down and said, you be the doctor, you be the lawyer, you be this, what's going on. And so I came out of obedience, and now I'm graduating and I hate my major. He was an accounting major, to be honest with you. And I said, okay, I tell you what, okay, your parents are going to come. You're going to be proud. You're going to walk across and you're going to graduate and get your bachelor's degree. Guess what? The next level is your master's. And that level, you focus only on one thing. See, undergraduate, you're taking science and you're taking all these to expose you. And if you find the one that you got this really itching feeling that that's what I want to do, then you go for it. You make your parents proud. Go ahead. You got 2 more weeks. And there's nothing you can do to change that. But if you want to move on, then you have to be honest with them, with yourself, and say, I am so unhappy with this field. I don't want to do numbers. I don't want to do this. So you have to self-explore, open yourself. But the other thing too is don't take so long. I've dealt with students who have 2 years and what are you going to major? What is your major? He goes, I'm not sure. I go, oh my gosh. So you're going to drag it on? Just make a decision. Make a decision. It's like when the prophet said about getting married, they said, hey, just get married. And I don't say that loosely, but I say, well, what are you waiting for? The perfect partner? Just get married and get that out of the way so you can focus on your studies. Now, some people will argue with me on that. That's okay. No, see, get married.
Ah. Let me see first. So just another question for you, Dr. Reid, because knowing you from Samoa, like how has and you coming here to go to school to come to school here in America. So how has like your perspective of a Samoan helped you for your education in the field of psychology? Because knowing mostly we know as Islanders, psychology is more of like a Western kind of view, like a Western perspective. So
Mhm.
how has you being a Samoan woman or being a Samoan helped you in your field of psychology?
Yeah, well, thankfully, the world is changing and people's thinking has changed. Women were never encouraged to go on. We were encouraged in the islands. You're going to be home. You're going to take care of the children while your husband go look for a job or whatnot. But thankfully, times have changed, and I lived here. I came here when I was 5 years old, and at 5, 6 years old, started kindergarten, and then went back. My father was an educator. He's the one that stressed education to all of us, my four sisters, and he knew. So he brought us here, took us home, brought us here, took us home. We went back and forth. Like I'm a Kahuku alumni, but I didn't graduate from there. And he said he wanted to expose us to the world and then come back. But my uncle always also told me, Anna, Samoa needs you. I really want to go back to Samoa. And I know being in psychology, there's so much I can do. Even in the youth programs of the church, in primary. So if I choose not to go work for anybody, I would love to volunteer. I would love to set up something in the hospital, and help, help with that, the whole arena of psychology. They do offer psychology classes at the local community college, so people are exposed now to the field. Again, it goes back to what do you make of it? So I always considered myself very fortunate that my father raised us on both sides of the coin. So I was exposed to the Western culture, and then he made us hold on to our culture so that we don't forget. There are a lot of Samoans out there who are saying, yeah, I'm proud to be Samoan, but they don't speak Samoan. They've never been to Samoa. And now you have second, third generation Fijians who are in the mainland who say, yeah, yeah, Bula, this and that. They've never been to Fiji. So likewise, I say, open your eyes, open your ears, but more important, open your heart so that you can capture all of these things and make it work for you.
I absolutely loved that answer, and it leads me to my next question. What is your hope for the field of psychology in Samoa for the future?
In Samoa,
Hmm.
yeah. Well, my plan is that my mother is 83. We just celebrated her 83rd birthday. She was stuck here because the borders were closed and she couldn't fly into American Samoa. So I was glad she was stuck here. And my mother-in-law is 97. I always tell her, Mom, you're the same age as the prophet. And she's walking around and she's very mobile and whatnot. And so my plan after I retire from here, which probably be in the next couple of years, I plan to go to Samoa and work with and help my mom, work with my mom. And if you know me, I don't like to sit around. I don't want to babysit anybody. So I want to be fruitful and 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 be active in using not just psychology, but just basic human relations to help people not just in the church, which is a big help, but also in the community. My village still they still do village stuff like 6 o'clock. They have a bell that rings, all traffic stops. Then they have a prayer and they stay inside until they ring the bell. Then you're free to come out. If you don't obey that simple village law, you could be fined. Like you have to donate some cases of chicken to the chiefs, and they share it amongst each other. So I like that. I'm happy that they still do that. But we're losing our culture too. You know, we're as we are getting all these new things into the islands, people are slowly they still speak the language. I don't think they'll ever lose it. But basic way of life has changed. And I want to be there to help bridge the two together. And you know, there's nothing wrong with new ideas, but there's some things from the old that we can still merge and help to give them a better understanding of life.
Thank you so much, Dr. Reid. So just before we finish, is there anything else you want to say to our listeners from the Psychology Student Association?
You
Best message.
know, your college years are the most fun years of your life. So have fun learning. And the way I look at it, if you have an assignment, like if I have students who don't do their assignments, I'm always emailing them. I'm saying, hey, you forgot this, you forgot this, you forgot this. Oh, thank you, Sister Ree, for the reminder. It's a fun time. You're young, enjoy your learning, but you've got to love learning. If you love learning, then it makes it easier. You know, then it's easy. It's hard when you're dragging yourself out of bed, when you're dragging yourself to listen to the calls. But always tell yourself, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, and be on top of it. I'm a old school type of person with a pen and a paper, and I have to set down a schedule. Even if it's on your phone, if you write it down, you'll remember it more. So you'll write it down, you write it down, you write it, X it off, just a physical Xing it off. It's so rewarding. So you always pat yourself on the back and say, yes, yes, I can do it. So you can do it. And I used to tell my students when I was academic advising, come on, guys, you can do it. Otherwise, why did you come? Why did you come? You wasted the church's money and you wasted time to come all the way over here to study this? No. So make it fun and make it interesting for yourself. Okay?
Thank you so much, Dr. Reid, for all that you've mentioned that would help our psychology students in their endeavor in achieving their dreams in the psychology field. Again, my name is Inosi, and my name is Inosi Kinikin, the VP for the Education Activities for the Psychology Department, and my friend Jaina.
I am on the Service and Humanitarian Committee for the Psychology Club.
Thank you. And that's it for our podcast today. And we look forward to next week with our next guest. And mahalo and have a great day.